as illustrators, don't really limit yourself. Um, just learn everything you can because you never know when the tides change and you need to learn it. There's another teacher named Nathan Fox, and his work's beautiful. And I remember reading something where he said that helped him when he was working on Prince of Egypt for, I think that was DreamWorks back in the day. And he said a lot of the old guard animators, they just didn't want to learn digital painting. And he didn't care. He just said, I'm going to learn it. And that saved his job for later. And I think that that's kind of what I'm saying. Learn all these skills. I understand a lot of people are coming at this as like, I just want to learn traditional stuff and things like that. And I do think that that is extremely valuable. But I think sometimes these digital skills can help you a ton with your traditional stuff. That's not to say that you need to become a digital painter, and maybe your digital painting is more about you use digital painting as more of a pre-production tool rather than a post-production tool. And what I mean by that is that's more of a film term, but pre-production is, you know, the obviously the beginning stages of a production, your concept design, stuff like that. Post-production is, you know, the finished result. This is them printing the films and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I mean is it's like, is the final result digital or is it traditional? Because a lot of the traditional artists on the scene right now use a lot of digital skills. I'm always amazed by when I see James Gurney's work. I mean, he really knows the digital scene, although he doesn't use a lot of that stuff. He may use it for his kind of pre-production for a painting. I don't even think he does that. But I think that there's room for all of it. And what I'm saying is, um, don't discard some of it. Because with, as I'm showing you inking, how this applies to inking, as much of what I show you in inking is probably 10 times easier in digital. But why do I do it traditionally? Well, I like building my skills. So for me, the more I do it traditionally, the better I get at traditional inking. And the benefit is I have a small group of collectors that I can sell original inkings to. And I've been really lucky that, you know, people think enough of what I do to say, hey, I want to own one of your inkings or whatever else. Um, so what I'm saying is there's a market out there for all of this, but just learn to adapt with the new tools that come around. And I'm saying this mostly to the illustrators, to fine art and everything like that. So it doesn't necessarily apply, although you can use the digital skills in fine art and they'll help. But um, but one of the reasons I was saying this is because one thing I did read recently that I was kind of keeping up um, on is more about the machine learning and how as they're kind of pumping in, like if you want to look up, I think it was Microsoft, they were teaching a computer how to do caricatures. It's not great yet, but you know, it it's decent, I think, and like I think that the machine they give it all this catalog of all these different caricatures, and it comes up with something that's interesting. Um, it still feels off, and I think that's where machine learning will be for quite a while. But eventually, if you guys are younger here, and I'll experience it as well, it is going to be something that we're all in the future going to have to deal with. And I think that we're going to have to figure out how do we adapt to that. I mean, I think knowing the traditional skills really helps that uh, because one thing that I find with traditional inking versus digital inking is I actually embrace more of my mistakes because sometimes they're more interesting because the digital realm, you don't get as much as of that. Like, it's a little crisper and clearer. In general, I can tell when something's a digital inking versus a traditional inking. So quite a bit of a tangent on that, but I think what I'm trying to convey with that is that we should be adaptive as illustrators to, whatever comes along, use it and use it for that next generation of work. See how it can help you. And like I said, if you want to be just a traditional illustrator, there's no one saying you have to jump onto these other platforms. But I'm always of the mind where it's like, can it help me somewhere? Can it help me do more traditional stuff? And I think that that's kind of what I'm arguing for, is see how you can use it to improve your work. To like, how does your work differ from, like, as we get into the future, machine learning or digital painting or whatnot? And if you're a traditionalist, what breaks you apart from the digital painter? And I'd say embrace those qualities and try and push it in your work. In ink, like I said, it's very hard to tell the traditional inkers versus the digital inkers anymore. But you can tell. But as you get more, as your eye gets better in this, you'll be able to tell more. Like, I can generally tell if an inking's brush or if it's quill, but you can't always tell if it's tech pen versus quill and things like that. And I can't tell if it's brush pen versus just a dip brush like I'm doing here. And I have to admit, the brush pens are really good right now. So I'm just showing you my way because this is the way I trained. And one of the reasons I did this was, one, I liked inking, but was another is Jeff always said, hey, do some inking because it helps your dexterity. And it has. It's helped my dexterity a ton. So what I found is when I do life drawing, I could get into finer points that sometimes I remember different students at the time, they struggled with. And I think that inking really helped